Glory be to God, Mighty God Ministries, episode 11, Health and Wellness. And what we're going to do now is we're going to go over the app because I've talked a lot about the app that I use. I use a calorie counting app, and it's extremely important to do that. How if you want to lose weight or get fit, however you want to do it, you got to know what's coming in and what's going out. And how you do that is by counting your calories. And the only way to do this is track it through the app. If you don't do this already, then you don't know what you're eating, and there's no way to lose weight or stay physical fit because you don't know what you're doing. If you want to lose weight, then we all know that, or if you don't know, that's okay. That normally a pound of fat is, 3,500 calories or something like that. So if you want to lose weight, you got to do one or two things. You either have to work out and burn calories, which is going to take the weight off, or you have to you have to do it in the kitchen. You have to watch what you're eating. And then the other most important thing out of all of them is the power of prayer. Okay, prayer is the most powerful thing. So whether you believe it or not, if you believe in Jesus, God, even if you don't, pray. You pray to Jesus and God, and I promise you, things will change. And it will take time because, again, all the things you see online where the infomercials do this, do that, and it's a quick results, whether it's a pill or something else, those don't work. They're all just a bunch of scams. It's a bunch of scams and it's lies. It takes time because you didn't get to where you were at, in a short period, and you won't lose weight in a short period. At least healthy. You can lose weight real quick and do fads, but a lot of times those are short term, and then you'll go back to doing the same things, and you'll just put the weight back on. And a lot of times you'll put on more weight than you took off before. So consistency is key in everything you do. So you gotta have a way to track things first. And there's calculators also online that will show you, for your height, weight, and your age and the activity level you're doing, how much calories you should be taking in. Again, they're not always accurate because everyone's different shapes, sizes, and they're doing different things, and everybody's body's different. So you can't go that 100%, but at least you can base off like whether you should be starting at 2,000 calories, 2,500. I've gone 1,600 calories. Again, that's a little bit crazy. Shouldn't do that, but I've done it before. So what we're going to do is we're going to open up the app. It's called Fat Secret. Again, you can use any app. Doesn't matter what the app is. It's just important that you're putting your stuff in there and you know what you're eating. Because if you're not doing this, you could be eating, easily, 5,000, 6,000 calories, depending on what you're eating, who knows? And you won't know. And one of the things I recommend you do for the first week or two is just don't change anything. Don't change anything. Just put whatever you're eating in the app. Now, I don't do water, and drinks, but if you are drinking like pop, or juice or anything like that, if it has calories in it, put it in because you might not even realize. Like back in the day, I would down a 12 pack of pop easily. Then I did diet pop, which is probably worse for you than regular. It's worse for you than regular pop. But again, if you're using regular pop, your calorie contents, or if you're drinking energy drinks, stop drinking them. They're horrible for you. They're horrible for you. But if you are, again, put them in the app because there's no way to track what you're going to do without putting it. So if I were to go dinner, for instance, real quick, if I was to do my breakfast, what's going to happen is you could see recently eaten and different things like that, or most eaten. You could see, like I do my Ezekiel bread, I do my wheat germ, fat-free milk, strawberries, banana sometimes. I don't always do banana, and then blueberries. And then the little sauce I put on my toast. So if I click those and hit save, then I'm gonna know right now for my breakfast. I have 396 calories. I know where I'm at. I know what I ate, and then that's all calculated out. So now I know if I go down here, I have 25 grams of protein, and I know like if I'm trying to hit like 160 or something like that, I know roughly I need another 130 or somewhere around there. So if you're tracking protein, if you're not, then don't worry about it. But that might be my breakfast, and then if I do a lunch. If I did my eggs, I could do ginger, my Parmesan Reggiano, although I'm not doing that right now because it's like $10. And don't get the fake stuff because that stuff's not good. But get the real Parmesan Reggiano because that's got protein in it. It's really good. But I haven't been doing that because it's $10 and I'm not going to buy it when it's not on sale. Eggs, this time I did 6 eggs, which is a lot. Sometimes I'll do 2, sometimes I'll 4, sometimes if I'll do 6. 6 is going to be a lot of protein, but you don't have to do that much. And then the Ezekiel bread, I eat that toast on there. Oregano, tomatoes, Even if I don't do the 6, I'll do the 4. And again, eggs are going to be a certain calorie count, so as long as you're close, it doesn't really matter. But then if I put that on there, I know I have, again, 500 calories. I know I'm at 900 calories, and I could have another, if I'm doing, let's say I'm doing 2,000 calories total. I know for dinner I can do, another 1,100, you know? And then depending on the date, like if I'm just going to delete these. And that app is so easy to use. You'll just swipe over, delete these out. And I'll show you a couple different things you can do with the app. But the main thing is tracking, so you know at least what you're doing. Without tracking, you have no idea what you're taking in. And the thing is, remember, even if you're gonna have bad days, like just like me, you're gonna have days where you might eat some more, and that's okay. Just put it in the app. Because if you put it in the app, then you can know, like, oh, at the last couple of days I went a little bit overboard. I need to cut back, and you get not crazy, but just get yourself back in control, you know. And then, or on the weekend, if you have a crazy weekend, you need to do that. If you're drinking alcohol, I recommend you don't drink alcohol. But if you do, that's okay. It's okay. Put that in there, because I know when I was partying, and this is a long time ago, but if I went on the weekend, that would probably be my calorie content for the entire week. So you'd be surprised, again, if you're trying to lose weight and you don't really need to drink. There's certain things, like you cut out, pop, or cut out alcohol, you'll lose weight just from that. You make those 2 changes, you'll lose a lot of weight, because there's so many calories in that, and you don't realize it. If you're still in your party mode, or again, if you're going to a bar, you start pounding shots and drinks, you don't even realize how, the calories, because it's just liquid. Boom, boom, boom. You could have 900,000 calories. You go crazy. You could have 2,000, 3,000. Who knows? Who knows? So, but like for instance, like when I had my dinner, not too long ago, I had where is it at? I don't know if it's going to come up and show it, but I had the tuna steaks. I had the Ezekiel, or no, not the Ezekiel, but I had the sweet potato and cinnamon, and that was a sort of a very small, not a small plate, because again, you saw how many tunas there were. There was 5 big pieces of tuna. I ate the whole thing, but if you look calorie wise, that's only 840 calories. And I didn't even eat breakfast and dinner or lunch, which I normally don't skip both of them, but I did today because I had some stuff going on. So if you look at that, you're 839 calories. And if you eat, depending on what you do, that's 170 grams of protein. So like my proteins, I'm maxed out for the day. I'm good to go on that. That's essentially. So now, like today, what I did, I actually had a ton of desserts, because there was a time I could not eat fat, or very, very minimal. So like I actually had some Reese's and some other stuff that normally I don't really eat all the time, but because I didn't have it for so long, or certain ice cream, I'm going a little bit crazy on that now, because it's just I didn't have it for so long. But that's not something I do consistently. Again, consistency is key. You can treat yourself, you can have desserts, and if you're not worried about sugar content, like right now, if I'm at 839, that's nothing. Even if I added my lunch in there with the eggs and stuff, I might be at 1,500, and then if I'm doing 2,000, I have another 500 calories for dessert or snacks. If you want to do that. If you're doing 2,500, you have a lot of room to work with. And again, that's based off of where you want to be at. And you don't want to go too crazy, because if you try to lose too much weight, you're going to run into problems. So you want to do, what is it, a pound a week, or a pound every 2 weeks is what you're going to do. And it's going to take time. But if you stay consistent and you do your calories, and then if you start working out, if you want to do that, if not, just do walking. Walking's great for you. But you'll see the results. It will take time, but you'll see the results. The other great thing about this app is that if I would go to, for instance, lunch, just as an example, and I can search food. So I can click here and search food, and I can put in, like, let's say I wanted like a steak, which I'm not going to do that for lunch. But if I did want a steak, I could type in steak. It's going to pull up all different kinds. I can click steak, and then right now it's going to give me a baseline. Maybe not the exact steak I had, but a baseline. And then I can click that, and I know, obviously we know a pound is, or you may not know, that's okay. A pound is going to be 16 ounces, right? So we know if I have a steak, it's probably going to be a minimum of 8 ounces. And I'm going to look on the package. Normally it might be 12, or 16, but let's just say it's an 8. Then I know, again, you have, 569 calories, you have 62 grams of protein, you're going to have all this information there. And even that, well, let's say I had a steak for lunch, or maybe I did salad. Maybe I cut the steak up, throw it in some salad, that's always good. Maybe throw some cheese on it. And I'm at 1,400 calories. I didn't eat breakfast, which is okay. but I'm still at my limit, so I'm good to go there. The other cool thing about the app is that if there is food that's not in there, you can search it up, and essentially if it's not there, so if I were to type in like, I'm just gonna put something random. It'll probably still show something up. So I can click add new food here, and then I can put the brand in there, name it. I can put the product, I can put whatever I want there, and then I can put all my serving size, calories, fat, protein, all that stuff in there, save that. And then I can even, what's cool about this, I can submit a photo. So I can put the packaging, I can go like this, take a photo. Obviously this is not the packaging, but let's just say I take a keyboard, and then I can also scan the barcode, and then the next time I scan it, it's going to be in the app as long as you save it. And you can put tags on it too. I'm just going to hit OK to close out of there. But that's the cool thing about the app, is being able to have all those features. And just an example, I'm going to show you real quick here. Just as an example, I have this sustainable white wild planet, and I eat any kind of tuna, so I'm not picky to one brand, but this one is actually pretty good. You can eat it straight out the can, and it's good. Where some of the other tunas, you might have to doctor them up a little bit unless you really like tuna, But what you can do in the app is you can click the little camera down below, and then just like that, I can click the camera or the barcode, put that in front, and then you can see right now, sustainable seas, wild pink salmon, and you have 130 grams, 29 grams of protein. I hit save. These are another, again, tuna, it's an acquired taste. Not, obviously canned tuna isn't like as good as getting like fresh, but if you're looking to add protein and something for light on calories, these are one of the best things you could do, because they have a high protein content and they're normally low calories, so that's a good thing. But another cool thing in the app, again, you can scan, and it's going to tell you where you're at, and it's going to show you, over the days, and you'll see progress. I promise you will see progress if you do these. And there's all different ways you can do it. Before I started out with the app, and again, you don't need to do the apps, but before I did that, what I would do is I'm going to shut this off because we're done with that. I used Excel for a little bit. And again, you don't have to do that, but you can do that. That's what I did. I used Excel, and let me see if I can I'll pull in let me see if I can pull in an example just to show you, just to get an idea. And I still may do that, like maybe like for a grocery list type of thing, like maybe like a shopping list, or you could write it down on paper too. But I'll occasionally do that. I gotta pull this in real quick so you can see it. Okay, so if you look at that real quick, and it's not perfect, but if you take a glance, this is, you can set a schedule up, and then that becomes, again, consistency is key. So whatever you can do to make it easier for you. You can see I put the pricing in there, I put the different things, and there's all different types of meal plans with the different things I would eat at that time. A lot of this stuff, it changes, but again, that's something that's sort of cool, because you can do that and it stays consistent. And I'll give you another example there. I talked about this in another video where I fell and I messed my arm up. And I believe God healed me there, because I didn't go to the doctor or anything like that, and it just naturally healed over time. But what ended up happening is, I could only do like 2 push-ups. And I used to do push-ups when I was younger, growing up. I used to play sports and all that. So I could, we used to rip out 50, 60 push-ups like it was nothing. When you're young, you could do that kind of stuff. But the older you get, the harder it is. And what ended up happening is, I started with 2 push-ups. And I tell my kids this too, because it's not where you start, it's where you end. It's the same thing as like the way God sees you, right? He doesn't see you at your lowest point. He loves you then, but he also knows your best time. He knows when you're like on top of the world and you're doing great, and he sees you then. It's the same concept. With the push-ups, you could start out with 5, 10 push-ups. You're working out, doing weights. Start out small. Consistency is key. Whether you do it 1 day a week, 3 days a week. And the example, the reason why I bring that up is because I started from 2, and then I moved to 5, then 10, then 15, and it builds up. And right now I probably do more than I need to, because I used to do them every day, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then take off the weekends. But right now I do them Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And again, you might not have time, but if you want to get fit in different things and build muscle, you start like that. And I think now I used to do sets of 15, and then I moved up to 30. So most of my sets are 30, but when I do my push-ups, and again, I'm not repping these all at once, I do it over time. I'll have one set of 35, and then at the end it's 315s, but I just rep about 50. But it's funny, I started out with like, those numbers, and just it builds up over time. And over the past, maybe might be 2 years, year and a half to 2 years. But again, I started out at two, and I think right now I'm at like 350. So I think I do 350 push-ups, which again, it's not a ton. There's, if you're in gymnastics or you're a body, you might do, if you're a boxer or whatever, you might do, 1,000. But again, it's starting out with the consistency. So the key thing here is that you need to pray, because I can tell you that's how I lost my weight and I kept it off. Throughout my life, I could gain weight and lose weight, but I've never been able to consistently keep it off. But with the power of prayer and God, even if you don't believe, I promise you, you pray, you will see, you'll make changes, and you'll see him. God will change you. He'll make things that are impossible possible. That is what he does. And he's been doing it for a long time, before the world was even created. So do that. But you also need some tools, and you got to put in the work. So get an app, some type of calorie counting app, and that's how you're going to start. Put what you eat in there and start gauging that, and then tighten down a little bit. But you can still do things in moderation. You don't want to go too crazy, because you do too crazy, you won't be able to keep up with it. You can still keep some desserts and stuff, but keep track of that, because at least then you know what you got coming in. Whereas if you don't keep track of anything, you can't get better. If you don't keep track of stuff and have a baseline, how do you move up? You can't. And that's what a lot of us do. And we don't even realize, like, we're eating different things. And I'll show you another example. And I eat them because I couldn't eat a lot of fat. So I went for a long time without ice cream and chocolate, and I love that. So I love like whipped cream and chocolate and ice cream. Even like the kid, they had Reese's peanut butter ice cream or something like that. In one small scoop or two small scoops is like 200 calories. But again, you gotta splurge sometimes. But Reese Pieces, for instance, there's a box of them, right? They're like this big, and there's not a ton in them. But that box, if you count out the servings, the total box is 4 servings, right? So if that box is 4 servings, if you count out Reese Pieces, which I do, and it sounds crazy, but you have to do it, because otherwise you don't know what you're eating. It's 38 pieces, right? 38 pieces is 140 calories. So essentially, when you do the 140 calories, it doesn't seem that bad, but it's times 4. So what is that? 560. So again, occasionally it's not bad. You eat a whole box of Reese Pieces, 560 calories, not bad. But if you look at, you have 2,000 calories, and I could have ate like 5, ahi tuna steaks, you have to keep that in mind. So whether that's you give room to eat the whole box, or maybe you only do the 38 pieces, which is hard for a lot of us, because a lot of us are just going to eat the whole box. So keep that in mind. That's a crucial thing. Again, this channel is to glorify God. So that is one of the main reasons I'm doing it. And the reason why I'm giving this information out and trying to spread the word is because, he's changed my life, and he's helped me do things that I could never do. And I've tried them on my own without him, and I could get results, but they're not the same results, and they're not long-term results, but with the power of prayer, and then you put the tools in place, and all things are possible. And when I say tools, you got to work. So again, it's in the kitchen. What you eat is going to affect you. That's probably the most important thing. But then also, if you do some working out, some physical activity, that will help you too. So if you want to speed things up, that's how you speed them up. But they're still going to take time. They are still going to take time. You can't expect to see, these crazy results in 2 weeks. And anyone that says that on YouTube or on the different channels, these different programs that they sell you, it's a lie. It's a lie. They're either photoshopped, or what they'll do is, and I know, because when you sometimes I fast, and when you fast, I've said this in other videos, you have a lot of water weight in you, and you can basically fast, whether it's you're just doing liquids and no food, or both, and you'll see, you'll jump on the scale, and it's like, oh, 30 pounds lighter. You're not 30 pounds lighter. It's the water weight that came out of you. And they'll do the same thing. They'll do those, before and after photos. And sometimes they're real. I'm not denying those. Sometimes they're real, but sometimes it's they won't eat. They won't eat or drink, and then naturally your stomach looks smaller because of that. So you have to be very careful when you see these fad diets and all these other things that where you're not putting in the work, you know, they're just not real. It's like anything else in life. If you don't put in the work, you're not going to see the outcome. So, you know, look at the programs and say, are you putting in the work or not? If you're not putting in the work, then it's a scam and it's a lie, you know. But again, this channel, again, glorify God. That's why we're here. So if you're not saved, if you're not even sure what that means, that's okay. If you're on the fence, click the description below and read that salvation prayer. I promise you it is the best thing in your life that will ever happen. It takes time like everything else, but God will work through you. The Holy Spirit will work inside of you, and you will see changes. You will eventually get a peace and love like nothing else. It took me for almost 40 years. I'm 42 now. It took me that long, but it is the best thing I have in my life. You know, my relationship with God and that, it is the best thing I have in my life. And there is nothing that I would give up for it. Like, it is a peace and love that I cannot explain in words. It's just, I can't explain it. God bless you, and we'll see you in the next one.